in Hartford. People vested in the community, neighborhood schools. I don't even go into that thing because had the privilege of serving on the Board of Education when we were doing the school building project. And I still call it Barber School. I refuse to call it the journalism. Parents say Barber. But we're part of the solution and the problem. All of us in here. I was thinking about some of the things we need. Schools, we need to have some after-school programs.
Amen.
Night gym, there's no way that a center ought to close for the summer or at all. But I'm glad to see Councilperson Winshire and woman, women person. I'm not politically correct. But thank you. I wanted to say this. What I wanted to ask, because everybody who's involved or been involved in some way knows that at the city level may have great desires, but the state can impact what comes down. The state can bring it down, but then it can get lost. I mean, blew my mind that we had the Board of Education elected, then we had the Board of Education administrators, then we had an education community committee with the city, and it made it sort of hard to do things. But I'm asking this, has anyone in here thought about building a real coalition? Coalition from the elected state officials, city officials, and the others, a real coalition where we could come together and have a strategic plan, and I mean seriously, at your level, at this level, at the other level, because we're talking about education. Monies get lost because those monies a long time ago were no longer equitably distributed to every single district as they were supposed to be. On the state level, has anyone given thought to really having a comprehensive, would you be willing to get together with all the other elected officials, appointed officials from Hartford, and to come up with a real, and stick to it? Like they're talking about going nuclear, we're going to go nuclear on this thing. If we don't get this for this, at the local level, at the state level, this is how we're going to push and vote.
And I agree with Reverend Carter. All of us have a part, and all of us have strengths and gifts in certain areas. And what we need to do is we need to help each other know and bring out those gifts that we have for each other. I'm a social worker. I work in the schools, okay? I'm a community activist. I'm not necessarily a fire person or a police officer. They know their job, but they got to work with us because we're one community. And my concept is this: if we look at the community and those of us who are in the community, and as Giselle said, there's no big eyes or little U's. We're all in this together. A few years ago, I was a state rep.
Like I have been limited. I've seen many people from different communities outside of Hartford. They come into our school system to complete their education, like in terms of getting internship. And I've been struggling for the past maybe 4 years trying to finish my master's, but I've not been given that opportunity because I'm told that if I take time off from work, then I will lose my position. I do have a good rapport with Hartford Public System, so I know I could get back in, but then I'll have to start all over. And I'm just wondering, is there anything that can be done? Because there are thousands of other people like myself who want to complete their degrees, but if you want to keep your pension and keep your life going, then, I mean, how do we get around this?
Yes, the answer to your question is yes, and we can talk offline, but absolutely, I know exactly what you need to do as far as that's concerned. And you don't have to worry about losing your job. That's not going to happen.
But
No,
I've
I
been
mean,
to the superintendent, I've been everywhere. The superintendent was okay with giving me the time, but then
right, so
we need to.
yes, absolutely.
We have a question over here. That's one of you, Jackson, going to connect her, so we'll take the next question. Is that okay?
Let me just say, and Mr. Hall, Josh is going to work with you, and I think that you're going to be successful in that. But part of the difficulty we have to understand is that first of all, we need more of our residents and more of the people that live in our community to be part of the Hartford school system. We have to really look at that a lot of people live outside of Hartford, come and work in Hartford and don't invest in our community. So we need to do that. The other piece that we need to do is we have to be realistic that I'm going to go back to that. We all have something to offer. And at the state level, I'm not going to be passing laws or supporting laws that make it more difficult for residents to get the job. You have to have so much education. You have to have so much license. You have to do this for so many years. We used to have paraprofessionals that was community-based people that worked in our community. Then we said, oh, you got to have a degree. Oh, you got to go to school. You can't have the job anymore. We started to eliminate our people in our community that work very well with kids. And it wasn't always about the degree. And so when you say I have to do these things and they put all these, again, requirements, a lot of times it keeps our residents out. We need to change that because we have residents that can work very well with our children.
And we pay taxes here, so.
And she paid taxes.
And you pay taxes here. Thank you. That's even more so why.
Okay, next question.
Okay, so I have like a two-part question, and some of you guys already touched on the areas, so if you already did this, let us know. I want to know what community involvement each of you guys had within the community, like Hartford, within the past year or 2 years, and also what is your action plan / areas of concern if elected?
Community involvement.
Go ahead, John.
So I'm currently the vice president of the Blue Hill Civic Association, and so there we actually just went through our very lengthy, and Vicky's in the back right there, lengthy strategic planning process. And so we finally have a strategic plan, and that's what I was talking about earlier in terms of what we're focusing on, which is neighborhood revitalization, specifically around housing and economic development. And so we've just gone through that process. And so I encourage more folks to engage with the Blue Hill Civic Association.
Okay, so we are down to the last 10 minutes, and I have a question here. Now, we will also want to take time out to note that one of our candidates wasn't able to make it here tonight. I found out a little while ago that he had some campaign work to do. That's Ricky Pinckney's, and he is the endorsed candidate by the 7th District Town Committee and the DTC. So this question it's a two-part question. One thing that Democrats get criticized about is in the media is their supposed lack of core values and beliefs. What are your core values and beliefs? And then secondly, why are you a Democrat, or because you're not the endorsed Democrat, not running as one for lack of endorsement? Should I repeat the first part first?
Actually, the last part.
The last part, okay. So why are you a Democrat? And if you are not a Democrat, why are you running as your chosen affiliation?
Why are you not running as a Democrat?
I'm a Democrat, and I think that and I'm actually on the Democratic Town Committee, and I would say that I actually am disappointed that the endorsed candidate is not here, because I think that as a responsibility of both the endorsed Democrats in this community, the priority should be listening to you, okay? Because the endorsed candidate was endorsed by 9 people. 9 people in our community should not speak for our community, so it gives you an opportunity to talk to, quote, the endorsed Democrats. We have to be more politically educated about the endorsement. I am a Democrat, and so I would tell people, I'm a Democrat based on the principles and based on the philosophy of some of the Democrats. But I'm an independent thinker, and this is part of why I don't think I got the endorsement. I petitioned on as a petitioning candidate because I said that I'm going to go out here and talk to my neighbors and get close to 100 signatures and see if they feel like I deserve it to try to ask for their vote. Not 9 people on the Democratic Party to select an endorsed candidate that's not here. That's not how our people in our community should decide our candidate. And so I will always let people know that I am a member of the Democratic Party. I believe in part of their platform. But as a state representative who had the experience, who was not able to get the Democratic endorsement, with the qualifications, with the seriousness of what's going on in our community, with the knowledge base that I have, with the commitment to work for you, and to ask you to come and continue to listen to me and see if I still hold up to being a person that deserves your consideration for a vote, I will put myself out there based on the record, based on some ideas that I want you to help me with, because you cannot do these alone, and then all of us have a part to play, and it's not just about party. So when people call and say, I'm an endorsed Democrat, endorsed Democrat don't tell you what is the purpose. This is not about a position. Politicians go into things because they want position. I say, what is your purpose of wanting to do this for the community? When you can judge and evaluate someone on the purpose and not the position, and I hope you can consider me for that. Thank you.
Give me 2 words for your core values and beliefs.
My core values is that I'm part of a community. I'm one part of a community. I hope that I have something that offers something to help my community. So my core value is I need to be utilized by my community to be helpful in my community. So each day, what can I do better than the day before? That's my core value and my principle. And I'm going to speak up when I feel there's an injustice to my community. And if you can educate me and help me, please do that.
Thank you. Giselle?
Well, repeat the question.
Okay, so you can give me what are your core values and beliefs? And then we're gonna talk about why are you a Democrat? And if you're not, if I'm, have it wrong, explain to me why are you running as a Democrat or the lack thereof?
Well, my core values is I believe in principles before politics, first of all. The principles that I believe in is truth, honesty, transparency. As I stated earlier, I don't consider myself to be a politician. I consider myself to be a servant of God and of the people. And I take my direction from the love of God. As it relates to why am I running,
Why are you a Democrat?
I believe in the democratic process. I believe that the people are the process. This would actually be considered my second run at the 7th District State Rep. And in November, am I receiving over 300 votes, 3 times as many as anyone who ran against our previous state rep? Told me that there are some individuals in our community who believe in my ability to serve us as well and be a voice for us and with us. So that's why.
In the richest country in the world, and in the wealthiest state in our union, nobody should want for anything. And to me, those are core democratic values. No child should want a good education. They should have to get a good education. Nobody should want to have health care. They should have to get health care. Nobody should want to walk down the street safely. They should be able to walk down the street safely. And to me, those are core democratic values. Like Giselle and Kenny, I too went for the Democratic Party endorsement. I wasn't successful, and that's fine. I'm the former treasurer of the Connecticut Democratic Party, so nothing about me is not democratic. So I'm a Democrat. I'm a working families Democrat. And so I was fortunate enough to have the Working Families Party, which is the liberal wing or progressive wing of the Democratic Party, endorse me. And I'm fortunate to have that endorsement because that gives me some true progressive roots that I value and hold dear and hold true. And so that's why I'm a Democrat. Thank you.
As you know, in the Blue Hills neighborhood, Boston is closing for the rec center. We're wondering if everything is closing and it ties to children, what are you, any one of you, going to do about that? What are you going to make sure that we're able to sustain that rec centers and things for our youth are available? Because if we're already having all these shootings and they're all young people, then what do you think they're gonna do when rec centers are closing down? Even if they're closing down for a couple of months, it's still the time that they're closing down. Like for instance, next week is spring break for our students in Hartford. The rec centers are closed. So what would our children be doing during that time? So how will you make sure that funding will come to the city of Hartford for our youth to be used only specific ways and not use any other? That's just.
So I deeply believe in the community school model, and so one of the challenges that we face as a city, particularly a neighborhood, is that we have to make sure that our schools are the center of our community, and our schools are open and available to our community at all hours of the day and the night. And so whether it's GED courses for parents at night, whether it's the rec center, we need to make sure that those resources are available. That's why I'm going, because we see, and that's what I'm talking about, that disinvestment that has been going on for far too long. We need to make sure we reverse that trend. And that's why I'm going to the Capitol, to make sure we reverse that trend and make sure those resources that are going other places, that are being used to convince millionaires and billionaires to stay in our state. And then it's because they say they're going to keep jobs here, and all of a sudden they turn around a few years later and those jobs haven't been produced. To make sure, you know what, Governor Malloy, enough about that. We have people who need those resources right now, right in these neighborhoods, and we need to make sure that they get them as quickly as possible. So that's why I'm going there.
Anyone else?
I would demand from Councilwoman Arjo Wynn and other people that when the mayor can appoint somebody at a $69,000 job and it costs $60,000 to keep these centers open, our priorities are screwed, and then I will work with the community to hold the local people, because they're the ones responsible for this particular one. And so as a state representative, similar to the library when they closed it and I got them the money, I would go to them and say, community, we want priorities for our centers and our food, and we do not want you, Mayor, to have a $69,000 a year aid. Put the $60,000, organize, hold our representatives accountable, and then do a sit-in in those places until they give you the money.
Okay, I am Councilwoman Arjo Wynn. And the minute that there was even an inkling that the mayor was going to ask the department head to cut $60,000 out of their budget, my phone rang. I'm the chair of labor and workforce and youth development for the city of Hartford. People call me in education. So I'm familiar with all the things that's going on with our kids, all the situations that we need to address, all of the things that government does. And I'm the government, and I'm disappointed in Hartford government. Because whenever we want to cut, we cut children and we cut the elderly. So when I got the phone call about the $60,000 cut, I said, you can't be serious. You're putting 10 families at harm for 60 days, yet you got multiple six-figure employees that you could have laid off for 60 days and their pocket would not have been hurt. Because they got bank accounts and other kind of reserves, they can still pay their mortgage, they can still pay their car notes. But there are 10 residents right now in the city of Hartford who can't pay the rent, who can't put food on the table because they're living already broke, pillar to post. These people make less than $25,000 a year. Okay, so when you talk about advocacy for the city of Hartford and our residents, I'm your person. Now you make a phone call to them other 8 people and see what they say.
But you got to vote with that one. So the last question is, if elected, what would your top 2 priorities be? When you walk into the state capitol, day one, you have won the election. What would be your top 2 priorities that you would represent on the behalf of the 7th district in your new position? We'll start with Josh.
So my top priority is to make sure that the funding that's supposed to come to Hartford Public Schools and comes to Hartford continues to come to Hartford. One of the challenges we face right now is that the governor proposed a bill that is going to divert some of the teacher pension funds and is going to force municipalities to pay for that money, pay for those funds. And so we're talking about about $17 million. That $17 million is going to break Hartford Public Schools. It's going to break the city, and to make sure that that stops and does not happen. So that's the number one, my number one priority when I get there. Absolutely.
My number one priority would be to, my number one priority would be to educate myself, as well as others, on what's transpiring at the state capitol as it relates to the budget as well.
My top priorities would be to quickly examine what we call the financial accountability bill that talks about the state maybe taking over the city and taking over cities around their finances. Basically, a state takeover. So my first priority would be to protect the city and the residents of the city to make sure that if there were any talk about a state takeover, that the citizens knew what that was, how it would impact them, and then that you have a say before anything's done. And part of that, and so that's my first priority. And the second priority would be looking at economic development and stabilizing our neighborhood. One of the first things that I would advocate for, the governor is proposing, for those of you who are homeowners and have some kind of property tax break because of a homeowner, we're talking about eliminating that. We represent a community of homeowners, residents that need breaks sometimes, and so I would restore the property tax relief for our homeowners and making sure that all of the funding is not cut, is not on the back of the folks, and quickly restore the property tax, because I think that really helps our residents in Blue Hills.
Okay, we're gonna take another question over here.
Hello, my name is Brandon Rothschild. So I was born and raised in this city. I don't live in this city anymore, but I care very deeply about this city. I come back to this city. All my jobs has actually been in this city, and now I'm an educator in this city. So I love to give back to the city, but also I'm getting my master's in social work. I'll be done this May, and when I think of our city, I think of mental health, and I think of how much of a dilemma we are in for mental health when it comes to our community. When we look at mental health, we look at, that's usually one of the first three things to be cut. And if you look at our people are really suffering with mental health illnesses. So I want to know, what will you do when you step foot into the Capitol to make sure that cuts aren't being targeted towards mental health, and that you're actually going to stand for our community to make sure that mental health is a priority and that things change and that we have more resources within our communities for our people.
That resource from our community. And so I agree with you 100%, brother, that's one of the things we need to make sure that does not happen, because for some reason that the communities that need it the most are the ones who are being devastated and stripped the most. And that's right here in Hartford, and especially North Hartford. And so absolutely I agree with you that that's one of the things that's going to be a priority. I was at a rally the other day at Community Health Services, and one of the conversations around that is about closing down community health services because of the different regulations and things that are impacting community health centers. And so but it all goes back to this budget, right? Because they're getting resources from the state. But from my perspective, we're talking about a governor and a legislator that are directing funds to the wrong people. That government is supposed to support and protect the least of these, not the most of these. And they've been focused too much on the most of these, and that's why I'm going in to make sure that folks like us and folks in our community are protected, and our rights and our progress are preserved. So absolutely, I agree. Absolutely.
I just attended a meeting as it relates to the Blue Hills Hospital being closed down and moved to Midtown 2 weeks ago. There was not one city representative there. There was not one state representative at that meeting from our community. However, there was a representative there from the South End. And she shared some things with us in that meeting that was quite disturbing to me. She shared a few things as it relates to how the budgets are presented at the Capitol level, and the threats that are made to the individuals in the room as it relates to our representatives and the legislative representatives. And she too expressed concern about the fact that there was no one in the room that could speak to our, to Blue Hills being closed down, supposedly being closed down. And but my greatest concern was the information that she shared with us as to how budgets are passed at the state capitol and the threats that are made to our representatives as to whether or not you take it. If you don't take what I present, then I'm gonna do this over here. Those types of threats would not intimidate me. They would not cause me to sway against what's in the best interest of our community. I believe it's very important, that we don't, when we are representing our community on a state level, that we represent the community with courage. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'm just going to say that is absolutely part of why I was an endorsed Democrat. Because when I was up there, I fought for the community. I was an independent thinker. I read the bills. I challenged them. And even with my experience and being ready to serve the community again in whatever capacity, the Democratic Party chose not to support me because it's a strong voice at the Capitol. So the idea is that we don't necessarily want a strong voice. And as Giselle said, if you're going to get intimidated by them, if you don't have the facts, if you don't do the research, if you don't have the knowledge, if you don't stand up to them, they particularly may not want you there because you challenge them to service your community. And some people outside our community don't want our community served. As a matter of fact, the endorsed Democrat, and I was hoping some of the town committee, because I would doubt if any of you guys can name 5 members on the town committee. Can't name them. The 9 people that decide this is the endorsed candidate. Some of the people that's not the politicians. They're politicians. I'm not talking about the politicians. They come asking for our votes. But you don't know them. They don't ask you what you feel. And then you got somebody outside. We got a town chair outside of our community that took out 200 absentee ballots for this election.
Yeah.
Why would somebody outside your community take out 200 absentee ballots for your community? He doesn't live here. Who's going to fill them out? He doesn't know the people. But it's a way to get around you deciding your representative. I'll get the absentee ballot. How many people in here in our community? We don't get 200 people in our community for absentee ballot. You go to senior homes, you go to congregate homes, you go where mass people are. Some of these people that they get the absentee ballots from live across the street from the voting place. But they vote absentee ballot. But this is a system that they use. I say that's not the system. The system is the people decide their representative. Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to thank everybody for coming out. Ray, Mrs. Jacobs, Mr. Hall, we appreciate it. So now you are informed of these 3 candidates. You make your
They're gonna be having a Democratic Women's Club. We want to also thank you all for coming out and participating in the process.
Here's some information for you to call me if you want to continue. Please call me about the 10-point program and see what I did.
This would be, specifically as it deals with this issue, is understanding of the issues, not only understanding, being able to communicate and help other people understand the issues that are facing us right now. I guess one of my weaknesses would be impatience. Impatience in not seeing how fast things should be changing. So impatience in seeing that for 4 years, we've been trying to get speed bumps on our street, and that's impatience, right? Impatience around seeing the deterioration of our public schools here in Hartford, and not seeing enough emphasis on making sure that our children, our precious resource, that's the most precious resource, have everything that they should have. And the impatience that I see these billionaires and millionaires who are just gobbling up everything they have and can have, and not willing to share any of that with those who need it the most. And so that's one of my reasons.
Thank you. Anyone have a question? Okay.
I have a question. I hear a lot about the state level. How many, out of the three of you, are any of you willing to get your hands dirty at some community events that are coming up? Like the NRZ did a youth event to prevent violence for the summer that's coming. Would you guys be willing to come and participate, speak? They did an event for the homeless. Would you be willing to come, pass out clothes, feed people, roll your sleeves up, and actually get active in the community and not focus on the state level?
By show of hands.
Yes, and so just to continue with that, I think we can all agree that those are all things that we do. So, yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. We've all done that. Absolutely.
My name is David Anderson. I work for Hartford Public School. I am an educator, but I feel like I have been limited. I've seen many people from different communities outside of Hartford. They come into our school system to complete their education, like in terms of getting internship. And I've been struggling for the past maybe 4 years trying to finish my master's, but I've not been given that opportunity because I'm told that if I take time off from work, then I will lose my position. I do have a good rapport with Hartford Public System, so I know I could get back in, but then I'd have to start all over. And I'm just wondering, is there anything that can be done? Because there are thousands of other people like myself who want to complete their degrees, but if you want to keep your pension and keep your life going, then, I mean, how do we get around this?
Yes, the answer to your question is yes, and we can talk offline, but absolutely, I know exactly what you need to do as far as that's concerned. And you don't have to worry about losing your job. That's not going to happen.
But
No,
I've
I
been
mean,
to the superintendent, I've been everywhere. The superintendent was okay with giving me the time, but then.
right, so
We need to.
yes, absolutely.
Right, yeah, we have a question over here. That's one of you, Jackson, can answer, so we'll take the next question. Is that okay?
Let me just say, and, Mr. Hall, Josh is going to work with you, and I think that you're going to be successful in that. But part of the difficulty we have to understand is that, first of all, we need more of our residents and more of the people that live in our community to be part of the Hartford school system. We have to really look at that a lot of people live outside of Hartford, come and work in Hartford, and don't invest in our community. So we need to do that. The other piece that we need to do is we have to be realistic that I'm going to go back to that. We all have something to offer. And at the state level, I'm not going to be passing laws or supporting laws that make it more difficult for residents to get the job. You have to have so much education. You have to have so much license. You have to do this for so many years. We used to have paraprofessionals that was community-based people that worked in our community. Then we said, oh, you got to have a degree. Oh, you got to go to school. You can't have the job anymore. We started to eliminate our people in our community that work very well with kids. And it wasn't always about the degree. And so when you say I have to do these things and they put all these, again, requirements, a lot of times it keeps our residents out. We need to change that because we have residents that can work very well with our children.
And we pay taxes here, so.
And she paid taxes.
And you pay taxes here. Thank you. That's even more so why.
Okay, next question.
Okay, so I have like a two-part question, and some of you guys already touched on the areas, so if you already did this, let us know. I want to know what community involvement each of you guys had within the community, like Hartford, within the past year or 2 years. And also, what is your action plan / areas of concern if elected?
Community
Go
involvement.
ahead, John.
So I'm currently the vice president of the Blue Hill Civic Association, and so there we actually just went through our very lengthy and Vicky's in the back right there, lengthy strategic planning process. And so we finally have a strategic plan, and that's what I was talking about earlier in terms of what we're focusing on, which is neighborhood revitalization, specifically around housing and economic development. And so we've just gone through that process. And so I encourage more folks to engage with the Blue Hill City.